There you go. That's my bio right there. So I photograph birds and bugs and landscapes, all natural stuff. I don't like people much. I like people here, you know, but human race, every time I turn on the news, I get depressed. So I really, I really have been photographing insects ever since, my father's Exacta from 1937 is one of the first reflexes. And I photographed cicadas way back then in 1970. There was a big eruption in Baltimore, so it got me excited. So, that was many, many, many years ago. That was 1970. I guess we're all kind of young around here. We know what that time was all about. I basically don't spend a whole lot of time on my own photographing. I photograph a lot with my faithful companion, my dog, so I dedicate this talk to him. He's the most calm dog there ever was. Unfortunately, this is not a regular PowerPoint. I was hoping it would be a real PowerPoint, but let's go to the next slide over here. And you get to meet my great dog. He's part coonhound. He is a very noble animal, and he likes trees. Treeing coonhound is what he is. Next slide. Okay, so this was animated. It was a flash that went off, but, insects don't like to be photographed, so what the heck? Well, some are oblivious. Bees, if you will, are totally oblivious to being photographed, but again, they're always under a lot of predation, especially this time of year. The yellow jackets are out and they're really causing mayhem. So you can imagine this is sort of the roles are reversed here. Next slide, please. Okay, and first we define macro photography as a 1-to-1 ratio of sensor to film size. So camera to bug ratio. I keep messing the two up, so I have a slide which has little backwards stuff in it. But basically, camera to bug. So the same size on the sensor as the actual bug is. Now, macro lenses may include greater ratios, 2-to-1. That's fairly common nowadays. We have a 1.5 as well out there. And they can go up to a 5-to-1 ratio. We have a Canon, I think, that goes that high, and Laowa. Another company that makes a lot of macro lenses in China. Next slide, please. And I just want to point out there is micro photography, which uses objectives, basically microscope objectives. Now, I don't know how many slices this guy put in. I should have asked him. The magnification is so high that you can only get a tiny sliver of this thing in focus. Then you add all these pieces together. I'll talk about it a little bit later. And to get something like this, which effectively looks like a scanning electron microscope, if you've ever heard of those guys, they have these huge blow-ups, would have taken, I don't know how many hundreds of slides. Go ahead, next slide, please. So micro photography. So I shoot creepy crawlies. That's the one who occupied space on my thumb here. Next slide, please. And this gives you a sense of scale. This is about the smallest insect that you're going to photograph. This is a springtail, and it's walking down a pine needle. So you can see that's about maybe 3 or 4 millimeters in length, not very big. You may have poked your fingers in leaves and seen some hopping around and jumping.
Is that smaller than an ant?
Yeah, generally are, but there are some small ants. But these guys, if you look in the leaves, you see things sort of like fleas that are hopping. That's a springtail. They have a little, what's called a furcula, in German they call it a little penis. But it flicks out, and the thing just spirals all over the place, right? And it's so cool. Next slide, please. So a manly obsession, making things bigger. I thought this would be a joke here. This should have been a fade in. Next slide, please. That's part one. Then I do a little bit on lighting. I guess and then the third part, you'll be asleep by then, will be on themes. That'll be just photographs. So these are, what I want to convey to you is that anybody can do macro photography. So it really doesn't take a lot of money to do it. And that's the beauty about it. So what I'm going to do here on this PowerPoint, I have information for you because you can access this later, right? So my understanding. So you can access this later and you can choose what you want to do if you haven't done macro photography before. In a cost-effective way to be able to do it. So these are the different topics that I'm going to address in sequence here for making things bigger. Next slide, please. Who said you could have a cookie? Okay. So millimeters matter. Yes, that's true. entomologists will look at the gonads of one fly and say, this is a round peg, can't go into a square hole. We have a new species. Well, that's the way it goes in, insect lore. But anyway, these are things that you need to pay attention to. Focal length on the lens here, and effective working distance. When you go and look on the web here, you see that AI in its hallucinations will often confuse focusing distance and minimal working distances. So make sure working distance is what you're looking for. How close can you get to your subject? Sometimes you don't want to be close. Sometimes it's good to be close. Next slide, please. Now, your first way of making things bigger is lens reversal. So it's less than $10. So if you have a 50 millimeter lens, that's your normal size, not bigger, it doesn't make things wider, doesn't make things longer. That's your regular size lens in that ballpark. And for less than $10, you can put an amount on your camera, and then the filter, which you normally put filters on the front of your lens, you screw the lens on backwards. So it's the front to back, right? And that reversal here allows you to increase the size of your subject, so it gives you a bigger size. Let's see here. So very inexpensive. You can't get very close. You can't get very far away. You have to be very close in this situation, but it is, it's a very successful way of doing it. There is a website that addresses that. Next slide, please. So less than $10. When you do lens reversal, you want to do a slight wide angle to regular lens. Do not use telephoto. You probably won't want to use a zoom. Just a regular lens is good. And again, there's some pointers here, and there's a website here if they have access to this PowerPoint that you can go to. Leave your lens on infinite focus. Next slide, please. Front filter macro lenses. So achromatic, what's that mean? It doesn't have, you may have remembered those little rings that you bought 3 of, right? Way from Vivitar back in the old days. You put them in the front of your lens. Those would have a little bit more aberrations on the side of your picture. So you can get a reasonable, lens that doesn't have those. And I recommend Raynox. There are other ones around. Raynox is actually very, very sharp, very good lens. And again, you're not talking less than $10. You're going to $80 now, a little bit more. But go ahead to the next slide, please. So there are 2 Raynox filters that you can buy here. One is the 150 and the 250. This is a 1.5 time increase and 2.5 times increase. Now, the actual increase that you're going to get on your lens depends on the lens focal length. So there is a site that you can go to here, so you can look at this PowerPoint and get this site here, Extreme Macro. It depends on your lens. It's not going to be necessarily an accurate answer. When you have a shorter lens, you get less magnification. I have a 60 millimeter macro lens that I use. It's lightweight. Everything I have is on the trail, so everything I have is lightweight, so it's a fairly small lens. And when I put my Raynox 2.5 on there, I only get a 1.5 magnification, a 50% larger image. So, but theoretically, though, if you have a longer lens, though, you're going to get that 2.5. So a 90 millimeter would serve you better. So the shorter the lens, the less effective these front filter lenses are going to be. The longer, the more you're going to get from them. All right, next slide, please. Then comes extension tubes, maybe a similar cost, if you will. So you can buy 2s and 3s. These things are available, various sources. And they basically increase the distance between the back of the lens and the sensor plane. So they have no optics at all, so you're not going to have any kind of aberrations from that, although you're going to lose some light. Next slide, please. Well, that's just a general picture here, so you can imagine just taking that and putting it further out, giving the light beam further a chance to expand to the sensor. Next slide, please. Okay, now how much amplification you're going to get? A 10 millimeter tube on a 50 millimeter lens, okay? All right, you can take that 10 and divide it by 50, and that gives you a 0.2. So that's a 20% increase. So you're going to get a 1.2 to 1 ratio. That's an increase to 120% of your specimen there. 20% increase, I guess, whatever. A 25 millimeter tube gives you more, but when you have a longer lens, like 100 millimeter, if you divide 10 divided by 100, you're going to only get 0.1. So the shorter the lens this time, the more benefit you're going to get from having a tube. Okay, go ahead, next slide. All right, so they're pretty cheap, no optical aberrations. You can use them separately or in stacks or in combination with a Raynox, for example. There will be some light loss. So ideally, if you're going to buy one, ideally you'd want to get one with electrical communication. But it's important to note when you're doing macro and you're really enlarging stuff, you're going to lose a lot of light. So you may not be able to do any autofocusing at all. Manual macro photography is often the norm. And that's something to pay attention to. The company that produced the microscope objectives that were used to produce that Anter is Laowa, Laowa in China. They're really good. They make good lenses, but they're all manual. But there's some really cool stuff. They are the most creative lens makers we have by far, I think, in the market. Neat stuff. So secondary light sources are good, right? Next slide, please. This happens to be a combination of tubes and a Raynox. This is an Alexander Cave where we went on a field trip in July, and this is 16 millimeters of extension with the Raynox. Now, cave springtails are actually smaller than the regular springtails, and this thing is probably about 2 millimeters. It was a dot. I mean, a tiny little white dot floating on a calcite raft. My lens was already in the water. But these are the cutest little fellas you ever saw. I mean, springtails are adorable, let's face it. Next slide, please. And of course, an extension tube, you could do a real big extension tube. That would be an old-fashioned bellows. Again, a lot of light loss, but a lot of magnification. Next slide, please. Next thing, now we're getting into some money. So those are three relatively inexpensive ways of getting into macro photography. A teleconverter basically puts a magnifying lens on the back of your lens. It actually allows you to, helps you with your working distance too. So you can put it behind a macro lens or a regular lens. Typically, most of you know that teleconverters come in 1.4 and 2.0 magnification, right? Again, some light loss, but hopefully you get a decent one. And, they're pretty good toys, a little expensive. Next slide. All right. And that's stuff I already said. Oh, I should note here that not all lenses are compatible with teleconverters. You may know that as well. Sometimes there are, the lens elements in the back of a lens are too far back to allow the teleconverters to go on the lens. I also had an experience with Sigma that if you get a Sigma teleconverter, at least it only worked with Sigma lenses. So I don't know how they did that, but it managed to, it's kind of stinky. So watch out when you buy a teleconverter. Make sure that you can use whatever lens you have on it, and it's not going to be where you're going to be railroaded into buying some brand. Next slide, please. Then we get to dedicated macro lenses here, right? So again, more money. Go ahead, next slide, please. If you're going to buy them, of course, do it soon. I guess what the de minimis tax of $800 tariff-free, I don't know where that stands nowadays, but if you're going to order something from Laos or from China, do it soon. The taxes are going to be rolling in. Two macro lenses, 1.1. I just want to point out that some lenses are not macro, but they get kind of close. They're nice. If you have a ratio of camera to subject of 0.25 to 1, it's the same thing as saying 1 to 4. So there's two ways of saying that. Okay, so go ahead. A lot of lenses are pretty good. Go ahead, next slide. And again, that's non-macro lens, macro lens, and right, your subject becomes considerably larger. Go ahead. This thing actually shot a nice little poop, but since I don't have a PowerPoint, my bathroom humor is not going to happen. Macro lenses are larger. They're deeper, right? They're, than regular lenses. They're going to be bulkier. That's one thing. That's a given. But I just want to make sure, that nobody asks me any technical questions because I am not a techno head. But I tried to pull together as much as I could on the subject on the web. Next slide, please. So again, millimeters matter. So focal length is important. Go ahead. So we have, you can classify macro lenses as being shorter, and you have longer ones. So a shorter macro lens might make 30 or 60 millimeter focal length will give you a working distance of maybe 2 inches in front of the front element of your camera lens, or to 4 or 5, something like that. And you have longer ones from 90 to 150 will take you to up to 18 inches in front. And of course, you're paying a lot of money for those guys. And also weight. For me, I take my equipment everywhere that I go. I am photographing with my dog, so I'm always in the woods. I always take my gear with me. We walk hundreds of miles together. So you don't know when you're going to come across insects. They're not out to, suddenly appear in front of you. Either go crawling around under the bushes, which, well, good luck. But you should be ready to shoot at any time. So having portable equipment really, really helps, I think, for me. That's just my personal thing. If you're just going to the backyard and shoot, get a heavier lens. But I would not want to carry those guys around. I've got a pretty heavy one, too, that I never take with me, really. So the shorter lenses give you more of a wide angle. Depth of field is going to be deeper, and they're going to be shorter and lighter, and the opposite, of course, on this side. Next slide, please. Working distance. I'm a working wheel, right? All right, next slide, please. So with this slide here, I want to point out here that these lenses have similar focal lengths. Look at that, 90, 100, 100, 105, 105. But look at the working distances. It varies on the design, right? So there's no real pat formula that works. This is a little bit bigger, that's an Irix. And this is some heavies here. These guys are pretty long. These are some of the long heavies. And I don't know if it's all the heavies, but certainly it's Nikon, Canon, Sigma, Tamron. Those are biggies. There's some other ones too. Laowa just came out with a 1.5 times focal length that goes to about 6 inches, which is pretty impressive because the more you magnify, the less your distance. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, used lenses. Again, this is a little bit common sense that we know. I would certainly suggest getting secondhand lenses from MBP or KEH or B&H. And if you're going to use manual photography, you might just get an adapter and use a different brand lens. That's one of the things that you can also do with a reversal ring, because you're only putting a filter on there. You can have a Canon and put it on a Nikon lens, or you could vice versa. Or a Pentax, or whatever you want to do. I mean, sometimes you can mix and match. If you're going to do manual anyway, it doesn't matter. Do it cheap, whatever you can afford. Okay, next slide. When you get a bunch of stuff together, it's nice to make a table. Now, this is a mistake here. I wanted to change the slide out, and that's a mistake as well. I couldn't do it. This should be the other way around, so my apologies, sort of being sloppy here. But you take a ruler, put it in front of your lens, go to your working distance. That's your minimum distance that you can approach your subject with and get it into focus, and how many millimeters go across your image frame. So you can see both here for the Irix and for the 16 millimeter Olympus here, we have 17 millimeters. And then I add some extension tubes here in alone and in combination, and then Raynoxes with them and stuff. And I also have a fully extended bellows here. You can see we get down to 6 to 7 millimeters. 5 times, there are, some macro lenses that are really, high magnification, but, I wouldn't go above 2. That would be really getting into some trouble. You have to do focus stacking when you do that, because the focal planes are so extremely thin that it's almost unworkable. Next slide, please.
Are you going to talk about focus stacking later, or do you want
I have it actually in here.
Okay.
So, JC?
I have a question. Like when you purchase a macro lens, like it's a 2.8 lens, but once you're working with it, it's not 2.8. Depending on the way my experience, depending on how close I am to the subject, or on my way, that lens does not stay at 2.8. Why is that?
You're asking me a technical question. That's why I had the bug upside down doing a poop. Jason, you got me knocked out there. Anybody else know the answer? I don't
You know,
know.
you buy two, you know, the lens say, you know, they're prime lens at 2.8. Like I have.
Most of them are 2.8s. Yeah,
I
let
have
them.
a Sigma 105 2.8. But I come to find out, the close, I get really close to it, it's hardly ever get to be 2.8. But whether I'm away from it, it changes from 2.8 to F4, whatever. I can never, it's not 2.8 all the way through. Try it sometime.
No, you're using automatic, I guess.
It's not 2.8.
I'm pretty manual most of the time. But
It's not a zoom lens you're talking about, 'cause you're not talking about a zoom lens.
A new lens?
Zoom.
No, I have a Sigma,
Because zoom lens-
I have a Sigma 105 macro lens, which is a prime, it's not zoom, you know, it's only.
I think that's just the focusing. As you get closer, you need to focus, the optics move out, so the aperture moves out, which means it's not really 2.8 anymore.
And I've
That's
asked some more
what it
people, and they say it's the same.
it sounds like a plausible
There's a
answer
little
there.
bit of light, I think. And then the one I used to have for my film camera years ago was like that.
Yeah. Because I've asked other people know who shoot macro also, and because I'm a Nikon shooter, if I was going to trade my Sigma for a Nikon, they're going to do it because they all do the same thing, and so I'm just wondering why they do it, but no one ever explained to me why they do it like that.
Yeah, the lens I used to have for my film camera compensated for that. There's actually a scale on there for what the f-stop would be as we focused out. I think it's just the
See,
physical
that's your problem, you're
movement.
shooting
there's-
Nikon, Canons don't do any of that. They
Try it. I guess you don't, okay, if you never noticed it, try
Just
it.
kidding.
Aren't they really expensive lenses that maintain the same aperture throughout the entire range? And maybe I sort of
Yeah,
sort
well,
of
I'm
related
gonna
to
get
that.
one of those,
Very expensive.
no, not, well, however you pronounce it, they're supposed to be some of the best macro lenses, so I want to try one of those and see that they do it also. Matter of fact, I should rent one first, maybe.
So my Olympus lens stays 2.8 all the way. I was using it.
Your macro lens?
Yeah.
It stays all the way?
The 60 millimeter that you were talking about?
That's the same one, yeah.
Yeah, it's 2.8. I used it this morning.
Yeah, okay, well, we can, I got a lot of slides, so I better, before I get in big trouble. When you get, and I need to point out here that I have a little bit more coming on this though, but when you go to high magnification, you're going to have some changes here in terms of light that are going to be pretty dramatic. So this slide is on here. So when you do high magnification, things start to really change. But I think I'm going to skip to the next slide here and go to long lenses, if you will. This is, I'm not sure, this little fragment on the bottom that I left here. But anyway, telephoto lenses. When you were photographing a dragonfly or a butterfly, hang it up, try to worry about having a macro lens that does 10 inches. You're going to need a lot of zoom. So long lenses are really important for shooting insects. And so just, you don't need, maybe you have a zoom already, so it's a lot of this stuff's already in your possession. Some have really good magnification. This is only half size, that's not bad, right? So that's pretty good. And teleconverters can also provide some reach on a long lens. So dragonflies and butterflies are a separate category from a lot of things. Anything that's shy. There's a lot of predators out there, so there's a lot of nervous bugs. Next slide, please. So that's what I was saying here. Bees are Mr. Magoo's. I guess there are thousands of them in a hive, so we lose a couple, big deal, right? Poor bees. But dragonflies, again, are watching the world. Next slide, please. So when you have a long lens there, bring a flash with you. It's going to be, you're not going to get side flashing. It's going to be a little bit on the flat side, but when you're photographing nasty guys, maybe a nest of wasps or something like that, you want to have a flash. And close your aperture, I guess. Go ahead. Very long lenses. There are some that are really good. The Sigma, I guess, can go as close as 10 inches. I don't know what the minimal working distances would be for some of the other long lenses. I know some of them like 20 feet. They're more for birding than they are for insects. I know the Olympus has the 150 to 400, which is absolutely unbelievably good. You can go with less than 4 feet and just shoot bugs at your feet. Next slide, please. That's long lens. Again, dragonfly, I call it geo-positioning. They stand completely still in the air here, and they can see movement relative to themselves on the ground. It's just absolutely amazing to watch these fellows when they're staying in one spot. Next slide, please. And it's a forest dragonfly, again, long lens shot with a flash. Next slide, please. And rather, again, flat lighting, but, this is like, how's your love life? Is your, they just sit there and ride on top of the other, and they just fly together as a pair. All right, next slide, please. And that's at 1100 millimeter. Depth of field, all right, next slide. So here it gets a little bit funny. Depth of field, you have, effective depth of field. I guess I should say that because I know I'm going to have some technical people jumping on me here. But that's going to determine how much of your subject is in apparent focus and also the quality of the bokeh, right? So making the background offset. That's going to decrease with increasing magnification. The effective depth of field is going to change with sensor size, right? So it's going to increase with the smaller sensors. It doesn't change the physical optics of the lens, but the apparent image is going to reflect that. Focal length is going to change aperture size. Next slide, please. This happens to be an Olympus, so it is going to have pretty good depth of field. This is a micro four third, which is if you take a diagonal cross section of an image there with micro four thirds, it's half as much area as you would find on a full frame, but it also gives you more depth of field. But you can see here with the ruler, you can get an idea of what you can capture at different at f-stops. This might be the equivalent of 40 or something, f40. It's really kind of crazy. Next slide, please. So we generally stop down to capture as much of the subject as possible, but then again, you might want to do, get bokeh, and so you want to open up and go the other direction as well. And when you're shooting a full frame sensor at f11, that's going to be f11, but if you're on an APS sensor, which is like on Nikon or Canon, they're slightly different. Basically 1.5 times. So your what is an f11 is going to be 11 times 1.5. It's going to be f16. And when you're doing on micro four third, f11 actually is the equivalent of f22 if you were shooting full frame. Smaller sensors are very good at capturing detail, but I guess people like Fred would tell you that they're lousy at getting skin gradations and things like that, and subtle changes in light and stuff. So everything has its pluses and minuses, but when you're photographing insects, you want things fairly sharp, so having a 4/3 is a pretty good idea. Next slide, please. And sometimes you don't want to get very deep, so sometimes you want to stay shallow. I mean, this is one of the most popular subjects you can shoot in photography, and that's a jumping spider. Next slide, please. And this is a classic picture right there of a deer fly. Just beautiful eyes that you can look at. These guys are definitely very accomplished flyers and pests. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide, please. So again, bokeh matters. Everybody knows that, right? And intensity of light and background contrast, bringing out details. Next slide, please. Next slide. And next slide. Okay, so depth of field, effective depth of field decreases with sensor size. Now, again, you're going to get, with the micro four sensor or APS, here is, these lenses have this, the focal length doesn't change. You can have a micro four third 100 millimeter is still 100 millimeter focal length. But in terms of magnification of the image, you're going to see effectively twice the magnification with a micro four thirds. So a 600 millimeter lens is going to give you a 1200 millimeter equivalent. And you're also going to be a doubling of the s-stops, and this is a 1.5, and that's 1 time the s-stop. Your full frame is your standard, against which everything is compared. Next slide, please. Excuse me. There's some actual depth of field measurements there. You can see that. As we move to actual focal length, we're basically keeping effective focal length the same, and then this is the actual focal length of the lenses. So this gives you an idea of comparing the 3 types of lenses. So these types of cameras, the APS, right? Those are the reduced frame Nikon and Canons, which I think are 1.6 and 1.5 respectively. Next slide. Backgrounds, a lot of people put fake backgrounds behind there. I don't, but that's just a matter of preference. Next slide, please. They carry portable backgrounds. I will take a bunch of debris and junk and put it behind my subject, so it makes it look like it's in nature. That's where I want to see my animals. This one happened to be dead, unfortunately, but well, good subject nonetheless. Next slide, please. And again, bokeh is a matter of choice, what you want to do, what you want to include. Next slide, please. Autofocusing with mirrorless is a little bit easier than DSLRs because you can aim where you want to focus. You can sort of move it around the screen. All right, so what we often end up with, though, is going to be manual focusing, and that's pretty standard because you're magnifying a lot. If you're magnifying, if you're doing things that are really close, then you're using extension tubes, stuff like that, then it's going to be manual. So bring plenty of light. That's very, very important to have light sources. Next slide, please. When you're getting really close in magnification, then you may decide you want your organism to be entirely in focus when the focal plane is too thin. So if you're operating at a wider aperture, then you might want to do more shots and then add them together in some way, and that's called focus stacking. It's like taking a loaf of bread and slices. Each one of these things is a focal plane, and you're putting all those focal planes together. A single slice is worthless, but together you get a nice creature. Next slide, please. You can have automated focus stacking or manual, and regardless, the subject has to be still, completely still. You can't have any movement at all. That ant that you saw probably was hundreds of photographs that were all added together, which is extremely, laborious to say the least. But that an automated focus stacking like that, you have to hold your subject completely still. You have to have your camera rock solid there. You can't have any movement at all. And generally, you would put it on a track, a moving track. You would have a computerized movement of your plane going down the stack, an automated way of doing that. And then you put it into a software program that adds it all together. So 50 shots, 90 shots, something like that. Most of the high-end cameras have an ability to do this kind of shooting. A couple of them, like Olympus here or OM Systems, can actually stack within the camera itself. So that's one of the reasons I went to Olympus. I had Pentax, and it really wasn't supporting, very much of macro compared to OM Systems. So you can take up to 15 photographs and add them up in camera, which is really, really nice if you're doing macro and walking around the field. You brace yourself against a tree or a leaf or something like that. Those cameras have a lot of stabilization, which helps. Excuse me, I'm getting dry throat here. So if you can, it'll get better. If you can't do that, you can also do manual focus stacking, which you can play around a little bit, fool a little bit. Next slide, please. So you do it in Photoshop, and you clone. Here comes the legs are in focus here, and I add them, then add that to this photograph, has the head, and you can put it together and get a pretty nice image. And that's a stacking rail, right? So your camera goes down the rail, and the subject's held immobily. Next slide, please. Again, if you use a wider aperture, you're going to have a lot more slices to use, right? So when you're looking at tiny distances, there's a lot of forgiveness in there. So, maybe tiny 0.5 millimeter, something like that in each shot, basically. Next slide, please. And you have a light source, right? So now you can use a flash like that. I like to use continuous flash continuous light when I'm focus stacking. All right, next slide, please. That ring right there is just for focusing purposes. So when you're doing high magnification, and this is a lens that is a 2.5 to 5 magnification, then you're going to really have so little light. The light's going to be really, really, really low. So you have just for focusing. The other light there that you're photographing with is going to outdo that one, and so the effect will not be significant. Next slide, please. And these are stacks with different spacings. You can get a little bit more detail. You see a rising, this is the closest together. Or is it this one? I don't know. Yeah, this is the furthest apart. You see a little bit more detail. But it's not that different, Next slide, please. That's a free hand focus stack. I'm sitting on the on the roof of my car. This is a robber fly, a red-footed robber fly. There's still some around. They are wonderful creatures, to say the least. They look like old men with beards, and they're voracious little monsters. Big monsters, excuse me. They're monsters. I got a picture of one that's got a European hornet in a death grip. I mean, it's just amazing what these little buggers will do. Next slide, please. And that's a typical focus stack sequence right there. I know that looks awful, but that's just one I threw on the table and photographed. And next slide, please. And so this is Xerion Stacker. We have Helicon, and there's also some free programs. I guess they're still around that do focus stacking for you. And so all these images, each one is lousy like that. When you get together, it starts to, get assembled into a, a deeper focus image. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is pretty straightforward stuff. I put that in here.
Are you having any luck focus stacking live?
Sometimes, but you want to brace yourself, right?
They still move.
Occasionally, I have. Occasionally, yeah, it's not that easy. I mean, it's so. Next slide, please. Let there be light. All right, next slide, please. So we have sunlight. Woe is me. So insects love sunlight. Some of them. So that's when you catch them. Other ones don't like light. They'll hide. And I have both night and day insects. Next slide, please. Sunlight offers the ultimate shutter speeds, and it can capture animals at 4,000ths of a second. That's what it takes. So you have flapping wings. You really need high speed. So sunlight is really amazing. There's some issues. You get blowout patches on shiny surfaces of insects sometimes, and then deep darks that eliminate detail. So sunlight has its pros and has its cons, but if you want to get a flying insect, this is about the only way to do it without using some very highfalutin technology. Next slide, please. And this is a bee going from one flower to the other, a sequence of shots that were put together. And again, this is a camera that can shoot a number of shots per second. I think some of the high-end cameras can do that. This is one that was shot, I think, at 60 shots per minute, or second, sorry, 60 shots per second, I think. Next slide, please. This is a boo-boo. Next slide, please. I have a few boo-boos. And trying to catch this guy here. These guys are just passing away now, but that's a hummingbird moth, and trying to catch those wings is a real challenge. Next slide, please. And bees always vibrate. They have vibrating bodies. They're just not calm. They're just always moving. So it's nice to be able to stop those guys with a higher shutter speed. So that's different from wasps. Wasps are pretty calm, but bees are just like vibrators. Next slide, please. With light comes shadow. Next slide, please. And sunlight is backlighting. This is a flash fill on a rather difficult spider to photograph. Spiders are sometimes these black, exoskeletons that sometimes are very, very reflective. Next slide, please. Cloudy days, overcast cloudy days are like the ideal light, that they're even light, but you have to increase your ISO. You also, if you're shooting in lower light, you have to depend more on camera stabilization. So there'll be some grain issues, and bugs are also cold-blooded, so they like the warmth for the most part. So you won't see as many on cloudy days. You'd be might be disappointed, but you never know when you're going to see them. Next slide, please. With natural lighting, you get natural backgrounds. With flash, you get typically black backgrounds. Some people like that background. I do too sometimes. Sometimes you want to bring out your critter with like a natural black bokeh. All right, next slide, please. Next slide, please. And again, it's always one of the joys of macro photography is that you see stuff you didn't realize were there. You know, I never saw this bugger back here, and he's obviously creeping up on this fellow. Good luck eating him, but this is really a delight about macro photography, is that you don't know what the heck you're going to get, and you're surprised, you know, eating a caterpillar here. Next slide, please. Let there be flashlight. Go ahead. Flashing is indispensable, as to say the least. Next slide. Okay. Offensive to some bugs, but remember that insects are often under direct sunlight. So probably those eyes don't get blinded like ours do, I suppose, because they can't blink, they can't close them. So I imagine having flashes probably doesn't affect a lot of bugs. Next slide. And this was a PowerPoint presentation, but this is direct flash versus indirect flash. It's one of the, again, two strategies. Sometimes I don't do a lot of indirect because it means carrying more junk with me. Some of the slides are a little out of sequence coming up, but you'll have to bear with me. But that's obviously gives more three-dimensional images when you do side flashing. Next slide, please. Okay, so direct flash placement, putting it right over your camera is just easy, much easier. If you're walking around for miles at a time carrying gear, you want to walk around with a lot of stuff hanging around. And you have to use direct flashing with telephotos, that's for sure. Indirect gives you shadow and depth, but it is bulky. Next slide. And sometimes you want to bring out some of the complicated surfaces that are found on here. If I would directly shoot right from this angle here with the light, that would wash out all my detail. So you really want indirect flashing does bring out that very important detail. Next slide, please.
I have a question. Are you going to talk about diffusers?
A little bit, because it's...
read a lot about everyone is using diffusers. I'm not an expert myself.
Mike has got a really good one, so maybe he wants to bring it in on tabletop.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't have that particular one, but I have the picture of it here. Okay. That is one of the biggest challenges you have, to say the least. So I really, that's a big, big topic. Now this is, I have the direct versus indirect slides here. I wanted to move these slides around, so I made a mistake. So we have to tolerate this, and then we'll go back to direct, indirect. Okay, when using flash only, you want to make sure that you don't have sunlight and flash competing at the same time, especially on a moving insect, or you're going to get a double outline of whatever you're photographing, right? You're going to have sun exposure and flash exposure. So you want to make sure that the flash is the only thing that's going to be illuminating your subject. And you're not going to get a flash to go that fast. The better cameras nowadays, 250th of a second is about where they are now. So to capture fast insects by flash, that are flying, flash may be, a 1,000th of a second or something. If you know where that insect is going to go, you can open up your shutter in the dark and then flash the thing at the right time, and you might capture it. It's a little hard to do that, but otherwise you have to depend on sunlight to catch a flying animal with the wings and all that. I use two flashes, so I'm going to just zoom in on what I have. I'm not here to cover the entire technology here. This PowerPoint will be even longer than it is. I use a Godox here, which is a really nice animal, and it has flash durations that vary under full power, only a 350th of a second to 20th. And the low power, you can go to 1/20th of a second. So flashes provide a range of duration, right? I like this for focus stacking because it's got a fast, dependable recharge rate. Right? Next slide, please. But I also like the Godox Lux Junior. It's a little guy. It's a really awesome little fella. It is a retro flash, they call that. It's only got a single, electrode on it that it doesn't do TTL, that kind of stuff. But the Godox Junior is not programmed to your camera like the 350 and most flashes are. So the 350 will not allow me to shoot something at a shutter speed higher than 250 of a second, right? But if you shoot it at a shutter speed faster than your flash, you're going to have a loss of the bottom of your picture, your image. But who cares, right, if it's just the bottom? So the little Godox here, I can go up to a 600th of a second with a flash. Now remember, sometimes the flash is slower than that to capture things. It is really a very nice little guy. I highly recognize it. It's very inexpensive. I think I paid less than $80 for it, but just nice little fella. Next slide, please. And again, macro diffusers, I have a little bit on that, and this isn't out of place here, but what the heck. Next slide, please. This is I guess, what's considered to be the best of the macro diffusers in terms of spreading out the light over the greatest surface area. So they have an AK out of Florida. This is from Australia. I think they probably use black widows on here because they're one of the most difficult spiders to photograph because their bodies are so shiny. I mean, they got good legs, baby. They're just gorgeous black legs but they're reflective as heck. So the idea is that you want to diffuse the light as much as possible. From everything I've read here, small diffusers really don't work very well. Sometimes people spend a lot of money on flash arrangements, like little flash on either side of the lens, like they spend $600 for whatever their brand name is. I know Olympus has something like that, and the diffusers really can't do it justice. That's the problem. So anyway, that's really good, but I can't walk down out in the woods with this thing, and I guess I do have a fix for those of you very few of you happen to have Olympus. Go ahead, and that's going to be next line. This is actually machine printed, so there'll probably be more of those in the future. That's my little Godox right there. I'm toning down the flash with some office paper, which I'm wrapping like a gift, and this thing here does a fantastic job of diffusing. Again, not perfect. It's but it's portable. I can actually stick it in my pocket, walk around, put it on when I need to. So the other one is great when you're coming out of your car and you're photographing your backyard. You're not doing miles of hiking. I normally walk 2-3 miles every day. So this is the way to go for me. Small flash, and that. Next slide, please. And that's what you want. You don't want blown out surfaces. And these shiny little beetles are generally a problem. So diffusers are very, very important. Next slide, please. And again, flash placement, back to there. Let's cover some of these things again, but go ahead, next slide. The ring flashes. I started out doing macro photography with these guys. And it was a Pentax ring flash, really good, beautiful, soft lighting. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And I don't know how other ring flashes work, but they're for dentists, I guess, to photograph cavities and chancres, The lighting is flat because you're straight on. And when you're photographing a bug, though, you get 2 circles on the eyes, which is something you really don't want. But if you don't mind 2 circles, or you can maybe Photoshop those out to 1 little circle, I don't know. But that's that, ring flashes. Okay, next slide. And direct flashing, convenient for the field. Must use with long lenses, flat lighting, indirect, depth and shadows. Next slide, please. And so indirect flashes, you can find them on either side here. And again, these are hard to get rid of that shine. That really is. It's that the big one, the big diffuser, the spider diffuser that Mike has is considered to be the best of the bunch. All right, I use something that's a 1-arm when I do it. Next slide, please. Oh yeah, you don't want to get caught in public with one of these, right? They are really good. Venus flashes are excellent when they work. Mine died after a period of time, not because of batteries sitting in it, but it just decided to die. And these things do break, no matter what they say. I saw a video where some guy said had his for 2 or 3 years and he rolled them into a knot every time. It's really nice. You can adjust the intensity of the flash manually in the back here, and it's really, really good machine when it does work. But lordy, I mean, I'm not going to carry that around. Right, next slide, please. And again, you have to put the diffusers on those individual things. That's the magic arm. I'll bring that up on tabletop night. And this is the little guy that you can shoot at a 600th of a second shutter speeds. That's a wonderful little thing. You probably should get the same. And I bought 2 different brands, and this is the one that really held up well. And I created a rig here, a little frame on the bottom, and 1/4-inch screws and stuff that you can put on with a little bit of rubber to increase friction. And this is a nice indirect flash. Next slide, please. Okay, so that gets us out of the techno junk, which I dread, but I do have just photographs here. Why I do macro, kind of cool stuff. So these are themes that I have. So we'll move through those, guys. Just go through these slowly there, John, and we'll be good. Finding the unexpected. You don't know what you're going to find. Go ahead. Now, this is not a great shot, but that's an aphid, right? That's a tiny guy. I was photographing this fly. I never knew we'd got a little victim over there. So kind of dramatic, and you don't know what you're going to get. Next slide, please. That's goldenrod, by the way. This is fun, 2 mating lighting bugs, and look at this little guy. A voyeur, right? He's watching this going on. This is kind of fun. Next slide. And then you see a chunk of lichen on a tree, right? Like, what the heck? This guy puts junk on his back, right, and crawls around. This is a lacewing. You may have seen those beautiful lacewing, those green things right there. And you can see his little head poking out. He's walking on my skin. That's my fingerprint, I guess. It's a little fella. Next slide, please. This was funny. I always go for these little buggers. They are stinkers. They are assassin bugs, I guess, or ambush bugs, sorry. And they have these little cold, evil eyes. And I've actually been photographed. I was photographing one of those guys or something on a plant, and one jumped out of nowhere and grabbed it. That's happened more than once. I have a picture coming up like that. But when I was photographing this one, I never noticed there's a crab spider right next to him. It's like 2 bad girls or bad boys right next to each other. And that's the beauty of macro. You don't know what the heck you're going to get. Obviously not bothering each other. I mean, that's interesting. I'm not sure what that means. Next slide, please. In winter, so we're coming into winter now. This is an overwintering spider. This is a Laowa. This is a high magnification manual put together. Really tough to do this one, I tell you. But it's a beautiful green spider. Next slide. And that's also an overwintering nymph, if you will, for I guess a cricket or something. Next slide. These guys are springtails. They're called globular springtails. They're so damn cute. They're the cutest things you ever saw. You want to take one home like a little pet, But they are tiny. They are tiny as can be. Last spring, there were a whole train of them moving up a tree that someone called up, and we went and looked at those guys just for some reason. Next slide, please. Nightlife. So that's a fishing spider. Now, what you want to do, and do it now, before the winter sets in, get a bright light, a really bright light, and shine it down in the grass and walk. And you see a diamond, like a diamond staring back at you, reflecting back at you, or a zirconium, whatever. Those are the eyes of a night hunter. Now, jumping spiders won't do that, but wolf spiders, they have a tapetum lucidum. Most animals have them, we don't. The dogs have them. Basically reflective, material behind the light receptors of the eye. And that's what gives you, sometimes these blinding white eyes. Every time you shoot a spider in the face, you get white eyes because it's got that tapetum lucidum in there. You can't get rid of it. This happens to be a fishing spider, happened to get himself a water strider. Here's a big spider. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And, of course, fireflies. Can't resist those guys. Next slide, please. This one was absolutely cool because when I photographed this little bugger, every time I flashed him, he flashed me back. I mean, it's so cool. Little behavior right there. Next slide, please. And this was on our field trip in Pennsylvania in July, and that is an Amish house there on a beautiful evening. And it was quiet. You could hear the children talking to their parents. There were no lights in there. Those are all lightning bugs. And they were talking to each other. And the field was just lit up. It was just gorgeous. Next slide, please. And this is, again, looking for those diamond eyes on the beach. This is a sand-colored, obviously very camouflaged spider that you find on the shore. So if you ever go to the beach at night, look for some wolf spiders. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. These are all night creatures. There is a mosquito here. That is an invasive one here, tiger mosquito. And that's the only one that is going to bite you during the day. So a little bugger. And he sleeps at night. Next slide, please. Humor. Well, sometimes there's humor in it all. Next slide. I think nobody remembers Mack and Meyer from way back when. I don't know. Nah, that's old stuff from the 1930s, I think. Two ants trying to haul a body up the tree. Next slide, please. And sometimes you look at insects, it's like the Serengeti. You got the elephant over here, and then there's an aphid, and there's a mite on top of the darn aphid. I mean, this is the cool thing. Someone has a beautiful picture of a springtail with a mite on it. I mean, it's like big things, little things, etc. Next slide, please. And then dare to be different. I'm looking at this whole patch of aphids, and look at this guy. Dare to be different. Next slide, please.
Allart,
Yeah.
so these live shots here, these are all single shots mostly?
Oh, yeah, they're all single. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, these guys, if you blow on them, they all wiggle together. You know, just to try to scare you away, like they're a larger organism. They were on my Picanthia. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, sorry, go back. This was wonderful, and this is a bird shot. Now, this is a flycatcher right there this summer. I was mowing the lawn, and it kept diving past me because I was stirring up the bugs and was getting its meals as I was kicking up all the bugs from when I was mowing. Then I photographed him in the tree, and I thought I was just photographing it. Then I looked at the slide later on, and there you have a lanternfly, like, you know, I taste like crap. Don't eat me, you know. But he was not interested in the lanternfly. No, I think he liked to eat smaller things. Next slide, please. And that is a springtail. They're tiny, and this is a huge gulch, but it's only about so big, but that's kind of cool. It's a matter of scale. Next slide. Next slide. And eat one now, save one for later on a beehive. It's kind of nasty. Next slide. There's a face off in the corner. Always that innocent look, you know, as he's chewing off the bee's face. You know, good old mantises. Next slide, please. You know these guys, right? Next slide. These are fun. These are really cute. There's a little butt picture right there. Next slide. Next slide. Predation, not so humor. Next slide. Now, you've had cabbages. Those are whiteflies, right? And so here's these. That's the one you want to get rid of. He's having him for lunch. Next slide. Beautiful flies. That's sometimes you get predation that you don't really want to see, but it happens. Next slide. That's a elet or a winged ant or termite, I think, or something. I don't know. Next slide. And if you look, you have to look carefully. You look for things that don't look right in the flowers. Now, I don't know if there's anything left in the goldenrods and stuff in Kinder Park, but you might want to just look at the flowers. Look for unusual lumps or darknesses and then zoom in and see what's there. Next slide. Okay, that's a robber fly. Next slide. This I shot just a couple days ago, and that's a harlequin. He's actually has got a mouth like a straw, and he's going to suck out the content of this poor little bee, and he stabs him and drains him out. Next slide, please. Next slide. I've seen that one before, but just beautiful. Next slide. And of course, you have the classic heart shape. Next slide. And, you know, bumblebees do it in a rather clumsy way. Next slide. And those are the evil robber flies. Next slide. Next slide. Now, this one's funny because this is a fungus that's only spread through copulation. So that's an STD for a ladybug. All right. Next slide, please. Life cycle. Next slide. And again, eggs. Next slide. And even in your sidewalk or just right outside your house, this is between the planks of my back porch. Next slide. Next slide. This is cool. This is a hair streak butterfly. They're little blue ones that are crazy. You ever seen those guys, right? They're caterpillars. You'll find them in certain plants there, and they're red ants. I see them over at Greenberry Point. And this is the caterpillar, and those are special little glands, and those that are secrete for those ants. Those ants will protect these guys. They are vicious protectors, but it's just wonderful, wonderful. Again, that's macro. That's very small stuff right there. Next slide. All three, queen, drone, and worker. Next slide. Drama. You get it with that too. I guess Greg Hockel was running right by as I was shooting this one over in Kinder. Next slide. Boom. Those are spider wasps. The spiders love to lay their eggs in wasps, in spiders, sorry, wasps, whatever. And again, that's why spiders are, they're scared. Next slide. This is the most violent picture I've ever photographed. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, look at that caterpillar's jaws. I mean, this was a long lens, about 15 feet away, I shows you what a long lens can do. And next slide, please. This is one of the most depressing slides. 17 years underground, and the carpenter ants are eating you alive as you're trying to emerge. It's a lot of drama. Next slide, please. And just little stuff that you didn't expect to see. I was photographing him, but he's got somebody else. Nice eyes, too. Next slide, please. Now, this one I love. This is one of those red-footed robber flies and a European hornet, and they're big. So this guy's fearless monster has got him in a death grip over there. Right? It's amazing. Next slide. And there's two fighting hornets. Next slide. Yin and yang, I guess. And again, the bouquet, I guess, not quite, but there's the evil spider and then a small aphid type thing. They release wax out of their butts, so when you try to eat them, they grab the wax and you're stuck with a mouthful of wax and you don't eat the bug. Next slide, please. Flowers, I don't do a whole lot of them. This is a classic, beautiful bee. Next slide. Next slide. I love these little guys. These are totally white. So they look like they're monochrome in a color picture. It's just a wonderful, this is over at Kenilworth. Right? Yeah, Kenilworth Gardens. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. And sometimes fungi are great places to look. That's the springtail again. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And beautiful tableau upon which it's crawling. Of course, these pictures are really blurry, but in real life, they're okay. Next slide. This one was funny because I was calling attention to a family there. Look at this cool bug here, right? The 2-year-old comes running up. This thing goes up his pants. Yeah. I felt bad for the little fella. I don't know if he ever got stuck by the thing, but it was funny. Next slide. Park your focal plane. It's something you can do. If you have a beehive, take your focal plane, park it in front of the entranceway, and catch when things go through. It's a waiting game, but these guys are predacious. They'll knock out a beehive. Next slide. This was cool. This is a mandevilla. Now, normally bees don't nest in mandevillas, but next slide. Notice here, this is a leaf-cutting bee. He came in and he's making a little nest inside of that mandevilla flower. And next slide. A predator comes in. I'm going to eat your babies. This was identified by Sam Droege, who knows all these bees things. So next slide. And I got a few more slides, almost done. So this fly is so cool. He's eating upside down. Casual snack. Next slide. I love their muscular bodies. They're gorgeous. Next slide. I mean, that you have to admit, that's lovely, I think. No? Eye of the beholder, I guess. Next slide. And this is the tango. Right? Next slide. Just lovely stuff. Next slide. Next slide. And we'll finish up, I think, with this. Go ahead. These are jumpers. Jumpers are absolutely wonderful. They're hard to photograph. You want to get them from the face. And that's tough to do. Sometimes you get one that cooperates, but this is like the classic. And I think some people must use some tricks to photograph these things because they're not very cooperative. This one's got a meal in his mouth. Next slide. Next slide. And the other day, I was photographing a hair streak, the one with the caterpillars that feed the red ants, and it was grooming itself carelessly here on the flower. And as I was photographing it, up comes Stinky Poo, and bam, that was it. Next slide. So that's it, guys. I hope I didn't totally knock you out. I don't know how to cover the topic without providing the techno and the inspiration.
Feedback. Do we have any questions for Al?
Yeah,
Everybody lights on.
At the risk of a technical question, when you reverse the lens, how do you control the aperture? Because usually there's nothing to change the aperture like.
I've never done it. There is a website on it there. I think it's cited there, so you might want to check that out, on lens reversal.
What I've heard is you keep the lens on the camera and say stop it down to f11. Turn the camera off, take the lens and it's stuck at f11. So when you reverse it, keep that aperture.
No, I think, sometimes you can do it manually, I guess, in some lenses you don't have to, if that's an automatic lens.
Yeah, old lenses manual,
Yeah.
they have them ready to fine.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do, just get an old lens.
Well,
Just get a real old lens, because it doesn't matter, really. You can get an old lens from 1970s from a different brand, it doesn't matter. There's plenty of those available, I'm sure, on eBay. And, reverse lensing is just wonderful. Yeah.
Back in the film days, eons ago, I used to use like a small bellows, put the 50 millimeter lens, whatever, 35, whatever, on the end, attach it to the camera.
Christine is
and
leaving
pull it out
work.
The track or do they even make those anymore?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I have one too, I can bring it in. I brought it out years
You can
ago,
adjust
tabletop
the
night.
size of the image focus and focus all that stuff by moving it on the rail.
You have to move it on a rail, yeah. It's a lot of light loss too, bellows.
So we have maybe a number, I'm gonna say novices, but also some of us unlimited, who haven't done a lot of macro photography. So we're not gonna learn everything in 2 weeks for a competition and 2 competitions in October. So what's a real easiest ways to get started with this if you don't have a lot of gear?
That's what I covered here, right? So that's why the reversal lens, which you can use any old lens with, I guess, old ones, slight wide angle to a regular lens, and then we have the Raynox, which is a little more $80, and the tubes probably similar. Those are inexpensive ways of doing macro with a regular 50 millimeter lens. Finally,
And the other category the category is close-up macro / between the two. So close-up, you would not necessarily need a macro lens for, I'm saying.
it depends what you're shooting, I guess. How big it is. The butterfly is pretty big, but you have the other extremes as well. If you're shooting a fly, you want to get all the hairs on his head. Our macro competition, I think, is restrictive to some degree. I think we have a definition of macro that.
Yeah, it's a macro close-up.
Mike does a really good job at doing like a paragraph on that. We'll need to go examine that. Yeah.
I've actually,
Oh, there he is.
I think Doug actually did the definition.
And if you want to, you have the mic.
Pass the same, right?
Have it here.
Pass it to him.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. I'm sitting here holding this thing.
Okay, the photograph should be taken from a position very near the subject. Generally, this means that the lens should be focused at or near its closest focusing position. The use of screw-on close-up filters, extension tubes, and macro lenses is permitted. And there are several examples that Mike has on the website. That's right off the website.
Yeah, so this PowerPoint is available, right? Is what I
Yes.
understand. So that's why I have all that stuff on there, so that people can If you haven't ever done it before, there it is. Okay, any more questions or?
Any more hints on how to find bugs and how to finding bugs
Finding bugs?
and also how to make them keep still?
Again, they are where you find them, so that's why I walk several miles a day. So
I'm looking for bugs.
And yeah, you don't see them all the time. So when you see something really cool, it's like, holy mackerel, and you go for it. I mean, that's the way it is. Now, there are people who ostensibly crawl under bushes and things like that because they're going to hide. Some insects are sloppy, right? You saw that little hair streak. You see what happened to it. It got nabbed pretty quickly. So, and there's also seasonal stuff. And late spring, early summer is the best time for everything. There's just so much stuff going on. Now we're in a cleanup phase where the yellow jackets are eating up everybody they can possibly eat. Right? We're heading into winter.
So what I walked out in my yard today, and I have a few flowers left. It's the remnants, but there's still flowers in my garden. And I noticed in every single flower, there's a bug trying to get that last little bit before the winter. So there are bugs still in my garden. So there's still something out there.
They get very desperate at the end of the year.
They're getting hungry.
They are.
But flowers count. You don't have
gave
to
it to you.
bugs. You can take macros with flowers and other stuff. Other things count, not just bugs.
Just look for irregularities. That would, and go to Kinder Park. There's a lot of wild. There's a lot of fields there. So we have fields. You have late flowers that I don't know what's left. I haven't been there in a while.
So Al, what do you suggest we take photos of on our hands-on night when we're going to try our hand at macro?
Anybody gonna bring in some bugs?
Don't bring live bugs.
They could be dead, and that'd be okay.
One subject for macro is old mechanical watches. They're usually about an inch across, lots of gears, some have ruby jewels in them.
Do you have some?
Ruby jewels. That sounds cool.
Can you find them after we just moved? Maybe not.
Al, what are you gonna bring? What are you gonna bring on hands-on night?
I'll bring the magic arm. Well, I'll bring a bunch of macro stuff.
Okay.
Certainly the magic arm because that's homemade. So you might want to look at it as a model for a way of getting a single side
Okay.
flash.
And Christine, I think she'll bring in. She's got all the stuff from Nikon, Canon, so she probably has a lot of things that you can play with as well. But if you can't help and bring, I have my own mic, thank you. If you can't help and bring a lighting setup or something, bring something. Bring something that you might think might look good. Coins are gonna look good. I'm gonna try to do an on-axis lighting setup before then, and that's great for photographing coins. So I'm sure everybody's got something. If not, just make sure to bring your camera, come on in, it's gonna be a great night.
Anything that has texture, like
I'm still
house plants.
I'm still trying to figure out. She said the theme of the night's macro with the decay and I don't know, what am I going to photograph macro with
Yesterday's
decay?
lunch was fungus on it.
You got a bunch of those things that fell off the tree. They're starting to decay.
Is that the same night?
Yeah, it's like a combination night.
Oh.
I don't know how we're going to do that, but maybe rusty metal parts, maybe a corroded electronics motherboard. So that's a good test for everybody to see what you can find that's small and maybe decaying as well.
Look at your fridge, mold.
There you go. Any other questions for Al? Thank you again, Al. As a reminder, field trip Sunday, September 21st. And then contest prints open theme. If you have any questions about how to mount your prints or any other questions about the rules, reach out to contests, Ron, me, any of the officers, and we'll get you on the right track. And then start thinking about that Thursday night, October 2nd, for hands-on night, theme of macro and decay. Thanks everybody for watching. See you next week.